Boom, we're live. My name is Patrick P.D. Delgado, the creator of the SPEAR and the AC Mars P's Life Principles. My co-host is my best friend, Kenny Candia, the ambassador of the SPEAR and the AC Mars P's Life Principles.
SPEAR is spelled SPPRR, which is an abbreviation for the 5 components of your life and how to manage each one individually. The first letter is S, and that's for spiritual. Next is P, and that's for physical. The next P is for psychological. R is for relationships, and the last R is for resources.
The premise of the podcast is education and fulfillment in each of those 5 components. The problem is there's a lot of misinformation regarding long-term success in any of those given components of your life. Applying the principles of your life SPEAR is the antidote to not knowing where to find long-term fulfillment. Remember, success is dependent upon the application of the information.
And because the principles that are taught here are unique every single week, this can't be found or duplicated anywhere else. So make sure to follow the weekly podcast and leave us a review and give us a comment.
Welcome to your Life SPEAR podcast, episode 4. Today is Wednesday, November 15th. Today we're on the 4th component, which is the letter R in SPEAR, which is relationships. So relationships are super important, Kenny. Let's talk about relationships.
Yeah, relationships is something that I truly value in life, bro. Relationships actually is a huge factor in what got me to where I am today. And a lot of people, like, sometimes, well, I listen to a lot of hip hop and a lot of rappers, they say, oh, I did it by myself. I ain't never needed no help. I'm like, dude, like, how true is that? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how true that is. Like, my mom's always been there for me. My friends have always been there for me. People in business or who I network with have been there and helped me get to where I'm at. Like, I wouldn't be in the position where I'm at, obviously without God, first and foremost, but that's kind of obvious. But, like, he puts people in my path that can help me go down a certain path that I want to achieve a goal on. You know, so I have been helped in multiple different ways. You know, I don't care if I'm reaching $1 billion. I know, like, respect and credit is paid where it's due, for sure. And you're one of the people that's actually helped me get to where I'm at.
Thanks,
right?
bro.
For Thanks. Sure, man.
Thanks, and likewise. So it's it goes both ways, and so it's a quid pro quo, something for something. It's something that you're giving, and you get something in return. Not necessarily expecting it, but you grow together. So that's the true relationship, the definition of a relationship, when you're growing together. So let's pull back to the AC Mars piece. So for applying AC Mars piece, so first taking an action, second gaining clarity. So clarity of that relationship. So right now you're defining your relationship with these people. You talked about your mom, you talked about your wife, me and other people that have been influential in your life. And I can do the same, and you would definitely be in that list. So if we're finding out the clarity, I like to say that the definition of a relationship is the amount of times that you check in. Checking in, meaning saying hi, stopping in, whether it's a text, a phone call, but it's checking in. And so let's kind of pull back to just the relationship, even with ourselves. What is the relationship with yourself? What's your relationship with God? So if you're applying it to your life SPEARs, it would be spiritual. So what's your relationship with God, or with the higher being of who you believe your creator is? So next would be physically. What's your relationship with your physical body? Meaning, what are you in tune with your body? Are you one with your body? Are you pushing your body, right? You get it.
Yeah, dude. A relationship with your body is super, super important. But I want to touch base on that clarity first as well, or kind of focus on that for a minute, because when you talk about relationships, you can have a lot of relationships in your life, but how are those relationships serving you? And how are those relationships serving that other person? Like you said, quid pro quo, something for something, right? And something that I've seen in relationships is a lot of the time, the relationships, they are literally taking you nowhere. Relationships are the downfall of a lot of people. When I was younger.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, man. When I was younger, I got mixed with the wrong crowd, and peer pressure is a real thing. peer pressure is so real. Like the people you hang around, like show me who 5 people you hang around. I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
You are the 5 people you hang around. And to say, just because somebody's funny, or like just say, like, or like you grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of people know the same people. Like me, I grew up in like kind of a rougher area, and I'm friends with that person because they say if we used to smoke or drink or whatever. Oh no, now that person that was at that little party or whatever, now I'm cool with them, and I'm cool with that person. We all smoke and drink together, right? So then eventually that does not serve each other. That serves each other in a bad way. So you really want to ask yourself and gain that clarity you were talking about on who is beneficial to having a relationship with. Because a lot of the times relationships can be a downfall. So I have an exercise for people and a question that people I like to ask, or I like them to ask themselves. So this pertains to people that either have children or someday want children. So you can kind of imagine like what you would want for your own kids. And most of the time, it's good stuff. At a very, very small percentage of people want their kids to grow up and be drug dealers and have guns and be tough and all that stuff. Very small percentage. It's out there, but hey, those people I'm sure they're not listening to this podcast right now. So, so there's one question I want you to ask yourself: is who I'm hanging around? Do I want my son or daughter to grow up to be just like this person I'm hanging around? Like that's a really deep question. And if the answer is hell no, like you probably need to find a new circle of friends. And the answer is like, yeah, man, totally. I would love my son to be like Patrick when he grows up, to be older, or not yourself, but the people who you hang around.
Right.
That's a very deep question.
Right. And so once you find those people that you want to hang out with, how do you measure so that the checking in is the means of measuring your relationship with that person? So if it's with God, how many times do you check in with God? Right. And how many times you check it in, like you talk with your mom, with me or anyone else, you're obviously the rest of your family and those that you love. So what's interesting, so psychologically what's happening is you're getting that dose of happiness. So you're getting that serotonin and the oxytocin that are being released in your brain.
I mean, that's a good question. Like you said, how do you measure that? Like, how do you measure if somebody's like worth being hanging around? Like, what would you say, Patrick?
Well, I would say you could even applying the AC Mars-P's, you can also apply what's sacrificed. So time is going to be spent regardless, right? Everyone knows that. So what are you going to spend that time on, and who are you going to spend that time with? So something has to be sacrificed in order to be with anyone, right? So you're spending time. You can only spend time with. You can be only one place at one time, and so. Next is what do you have a plan? I mean, on a monthly basis, are you having dinner with your favorite family member or friend or whoever it is, your wife on a regular basis, on a weekly, monthly basis? What are you guys doing on a daily basis? And so that's it.
Oh man, that's pretty cool how you can apply AC Mars-P's to pretty much every aspect of Spear. So, let's just dive into AC Mars-P's real quick. I know we talked about it, but I think maybe podcast 1. Just a quick rough breakdown. What is A? A is for action. C is for clarity. M is for measured. A is for accounted for. R is for recorded. S is for sacrificed. P is for planned. The next P is for practice. And the last S is for shared. AC Mars-P's. So we have 2 acronyms here that we're discussing. The main one's SPEAR, which is our Life SPEAR podcast, right? SPEAR. We go over that. You guys know that in every intro. You should have it memorized by now. And then AC Mars-P's. And AC Mars-P's just kind of break down each one of those components to make sure you have each one of those components spinning and you keep them all going. But relationships for me, so there's ways you can source relationships and how to create new relationships. And one of my favorite books of all times is How to Win Friends and Influence People. So me, I'm not a huge person in like followers or having a ton of friends or I have a large network of people, but I don't have that many good friends of mine. I mean, I have good friends. It's just like people I hang around and talk to the most. There's not that many of them, and that's kind of good for me to keep it that way. And I would say for most people to keep it that way, to keep your head down and keep the distractions out and keep your motivation at an all-time high. How to Win Friends and Influence People taught me how to gain valuable friends and how to influence my friends to do better and how to be around people that would influence me. So one of those things you can do is just like when you meet somebody, To get anybody to like you, I would say you like to give like compliment them, use their name a lot, memorize their name, because the word people likes to hear most is their own name, and that's studied all throughout time, man. Like you like to hear your own name the most out of every one of your names, and people like to talk about themselves. So if there's anybody like you would, man, I wish I could talk to that person, or blah blah blah, like that person looks cool, go and talk to them, go compliment them, go have them talk about themselves, ask them questions about their lives, and just kind of go down that route. But I can just probably point you in a direction to kind of dive a bit deeper into that, and how to actually gain good friendships and keep a relationship going, is how to win friends and influence people. Because it's not an easy thing to do to go talk to people, especially if you're an introvert, or how to win friends and keep them around and keep them interested. And another thing is the relationships you have in your life. How do you keep those relationships? There's no point in getting, having somebody in your life and they're just gonna leave. It's kind of like a turnover of friends. That sucks. Like do you know anybody that has a best friend this week, or has a friend the following week? Oh, I don't talk to that person anymore, but I talk to this person now, and eventually you're not going to talk to that person anymore either. Like, how do you get friends and keep them? Patrick, what do you think? What do you do to get friends and like actually keep your friends? How do you value your friendships
So friendships
or relationships?
relationships come down to service. Service. Who are you serving? So those people that you love are those that you serve, and you don't expect anything in return. And so, to me, that's a good way of defining your friends or your loved ones that you're serving. So those that you have a relationship with.
Yeah, man, I totally agree with that. And as far as like relationships go, like for me, something I do to keep my relationship strong is to always prove and show my loyalty to that friend or that relationship. Because me and you are both married, and marriage is not an easy thing, man. It's very very tough, but the rewards and the fruits that come from marriage are very beautiful. So like, but the thing is though, a marriage is a living, I don't like to say living organism, but like marriage is its own thing. You have your wife, and there's a third entity in that, which is like your marriage. Your marriage is like its own person, right? It always has to constantly be nourished, fed. Marriage is like a muscle, or like anything that has to be continued to be worked on to grow and to get better. When you dive into marriage,
Right.
sure.
And so you have God as that third component, right?
Yeah.
So within that triangle of your family, between you and your wife and God, and that's how you make up your relationship with your wife. So the other thing I want to talk about real quick, Kenny, was the weekly status updates, daily status updates. What are you doing daily? What are you doing weekly? So taking an inventory of where you're at with that relationship. And that's the reason, that's one of the reasons why you check in. You have a good relationship, and those things come out in a regular conversation with that person. And so it's about, you talked about your relationship, like with people like your mom, but also your dad. You may have, and just like me and my kids, the relationship may not be as strong, but you're checking in at least through text.
Yep.
Right. And so you're utilizing technology as a way to check in. So that's another means of measuring your relationship with that person.
Yeah, but I could tell you one thing as well, not only on how to keep relationships, because this right here, it teaches you how to keep your relationships and then make sure they last long and last a lifetime, if that. If you want to lose a relationship really quick, this is what you do. You gossip. You spread, not rumors. Say like, if you're in a friendship or some sort of relationship, either with your friend or your wife or any sort of family member, and, they trust you, you don't want to compromise that trust, and they tell you personal things. You don't want to go ahead and tell the next person their personal stuff, especially like let's say if somebody is having like financial problems, or like says this thing about somebody that they don't like, but you happen to be cool with them, you're going to go tell that person that they don't like, that you're supposedly cool with or hang around. Oh, this person's saying this about you, or blah, blah, blah. Like gossiping, that's like that's the quick route to having zero friends, or to having no fulfillment in your friendships or relationships. So that's something you need to stop. Gossiping is like, man, gossip is almost as bad as a murder to me in my eyes. So just don't ever do that. Like gossip is so bad.
Yeah, so that's a negative. Those are ways you can negatively impact a relationship. Is through gossip.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So I've experienced one time. So me personally, like I like to connect people with other people, especially if I feel that relationship will benefit from something. So I was in the solar industry back in 2020. I've been in the solar industry for like since 2017. But back in 2020, I had a business partner of mine that I got to business with to start this solar company. And I looked up to him a lot. He was my age, and we kind of grew up together in a very positive mindset. Super talented individual, super talented, and I learned a lot from him. And I had introduced him to somebody that I know in another business venture that I want to go down. And to be honest, this is like totally non-scripted, non-censored. Like we'll be able to go into the meat and potatoes here. I was trying to start a business in the cannabis industry. So I introduced my friend in the cannabis industry to my partner in the solar industry, and I'm like, okay, cool. And these guys hit it off, right? These guys became like best friends. They talked more than me and them two talked with each other. They ended up hanging out, and this and that, and eventually wanted to cut me out of the business and this and that. And then my business partner in the solar industry, he was starting to like do backbiting towards me or against me. He just made me look super bad, and that's just like one of the worst feelings ever. Like when you do a justice for somebody and connect them with somebody else that can really benefit their business and their lifestyle, and then you go and have that person turn against the other person, the one that introduced you to them, that doesn't feel good at all, man. Like that literally brought tears to my eyes, and pretty much just know that our friendship was over and all that stuff. And then now, guess what? They're not even friends anymore after a couple years. They're not even friends. I'm sure I was like, oh man, I knew it. I knew the day this happened. I was like, how long is their friendship going to last now? Because they're super close to each other, Somebody's going to backbite somebody. And exactly what happened is what I told you. They're not even friends anymore. I don't know what happened. They probably like fell out. I have no clue. I don't talk to either of them, but that's just one of those things, man. You just get through. Time heals all wounds. I'm fine now, obviously, and I'm doing very well. But that's just an experience I have with the backbiting and gossip.
One of the greatest quotes I've ever heard when it comes to relationships comes from the great Bob Marley, who said, "Everyone's going to hurt you. You just need to decide who's worth suffering for." Something like that. That's paraphrased. But I do believe that. And so, if everyone's going to hurt you, if you're going to be offended, if you're going to have setbacks in every relationship, the question is, how are you going to respond? So once again, it comes down to that space between stimulus and response. And someone, so you're talking about someone may have offended you, or may have done something intentionally, or may be unintentional. But either way, they did something that was negative, and now it's up to you to respond rather than react. The natural man wants to react in a natural way, which would be through fight or flight. So you're going to use your mind and overcome that natural man and respond. How are you going to respond? You're going to respond with love. Love always overcomes hate. Hate begets hate, right?
Always, man. Always. But as far as relationships, I guess the takeaways from this is just to see who you hang around most. Relationships is one of the biggest part of fulfillments in your life. There's 5 major components in your life that provides like real fulfillment, and it's one of 5. So 20% of your full fulfillment in your life is relationships. So you want to just take a look at who you're hanging around. If you're not been feeling, if someone around you don't make you feel that good, they're always complaining on this and that, blah blah blah, all this stuff. Do you want one of your kids to become like that person when they get older? Do you want that person or that your kids to be like that person? If the answer is no, then kind of go down another route. And just to make sure you don't gossip, that's another thing to take away from this. And if you do kind of spread rumors, they call it in the Hispanic language chisme. Try to stay away from that as much as you possibly can, and just to love your friends, love your neighbors, and make your relationships with your spouse strong. But for our next episode, it's going to be one of my favorites. Is the last R, and that's for resources. We're talking about cash flow, finances, money, business, all that good topics right there.
And time as a resource.
Yes, sir.
So,
So tune in next week, and we'll have a lot more unique content for you guys, and we'll end it there.